The snickers started the moment she rolled into the breach training facility. Elite SWAT officers exchanged knowing glances as Lieutenant Sarah Chen maneuvered her tactical wheelchair through the doorway. "Great, now we're babysitting," muttered one veteran operator, loud enough for her to hear. But what they didn't know was that the woman they were dismissing had spent 8 years as an Army combat engineer, specializing in explosive ordnance disposal in Afghanistan. What they were about to witness would shatter every assumption they had about limitations, strength, and what it truly means to be unstoppable. Sometimes the most devastating explosions come from the most unexpected sources. The morning sun cast long shadows across the concrete training yard as Lieutenant Sarah Chen's custom tactical wheelchair navigated through the entrance of the Regional SWAT Training Center. The facility buzzed with the energy of elite law enforcement officers preparing for another day of high-intensity training. But as Sarah's wheelchair wheels whispered across the polished floor, conversations gradually died down, replaced by curious stares and barely concealed whispers. "Is this some kind of diversity initiative?" Officer Marcus Rodriguez muttered to his partner, not bothering to lower his voice. The comment drew snickers from nearby trainees who had paused their equipment checks to watch the newcomer. Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but her expression remained professional as she signed in at the registration desk. She had heard variations of this reaction countless times since joining the Metropolitan Police Department's Special Operations Unit 6 months ago. What these officers couldn't see beneath her composed exterior was the steel forged in the mountains of Afghanistan. What they didn't know was that the woman they were dismissing as a token hire had once been Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen, one of the Army's most decorated female explosive ordnance disposal specialists. Her hands, now gripping the wheelchair's controls, had once diffused improvised explosive devices that could level city blocks. Those same hands had saved dozens of lives during her 3 tours in combat zones where split-second decisions meant the difference between coming home or coming home in a flag-draped coffin. The memory hit her like it always did, sudden and vivid. October 15th, 2019. Route Phoenix, outside Kandahar. Her unit had been conducting a routine patrol when their convoy hit what appeared to be a simple roadside bomb. But Sarah's trained eye had spotted the secondary device, cleverly concealed and designed to detonate when first responders arrived. Without hesitation, she had sprinted toward the danger while screaming for her team to take cover. She had managed to disarm the primary threat and was working on the secondary when intelligence reports later revealed a third device, one that no one had seen coming. The explosion had taken her legs but saved 8 lives. 8 soldiers who went home to their families because Sarah Chen refused to let fear dictate her actions. The Medal of Honor ceremony felt surreal, accepting the nation's highest military decoration from a hospital bed while learning to navigate a world suddenly filled with new challenges. But challenges, Sarah had learned long ago, were simply opportunities wearing different clothes. Training Sergeant Bill Morrison cleared his throat loudly, drawing everyone's attention to the front of the briefing room. A 30-year veteran with the build of a linebacker and a reputation for breaking cocky recruits, Morrison commanded instant respect. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we're covering advanced breaching techniques with our guest instructor, Lieutenant Chen from Metro Special Ops." His voice carried the authority of someone who had seen real combat, though few knew that Morrison himself was a former Marine who had served 2 tours in Iraq. "Breaching is the art of creating access where none exists," Morrison continued, his eyes scanning the room of seasoned officers. "It requires precision, timing, and absolute confidence in your abilities and equipment. One mistake can compromise an entire operation, or worse, cost lives." Several officers shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware that their morning's entertainment might actually be a serious learning experience. Sarah wheeled herself to the front of the room, her movements fluid and confident. She had spent countless hours adapting her techniques, working with engineers and fellow veterans to modify equipment and procedures that would allow her to maintain her effectiveness in her new reality. Her wheelchair wasn't a limitation. It was simply another tool in her arsenal, one that she had learned to wield with the same precision she had once applied to disarming bombs. Explosive breaching, Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room, is not about showing off or making the biggest bang. It's about surgical precision, creating exactly the opening you need, when you need it, without compromising the safety of your team or civilians on the other side. Her hands moved as she spoke, gesturing with the unconscious confidence of someone who had performed these procedures under fire, where failure wasn't just embarrassing, it was fatal. The skeptical murmurs that had filled the room earlier were notably absent now. Something in Sarah's demeanor, the way she spoke about explosives with the casual expertise of a master craftsman, had shifted the atmosphere. Officer Rodriguez found himself leaning forward, genuinely curious about what this woman might teach them. Even the most hardened veterans in the room recognized authentic experience when they heard it. And Sarah Chen radiated the quiet confidence that only came from proving yourself in the crucible of real combat. The outdoor breaching range stretched before them like a suburban battlefield, complete with mock doors, reinforced walls, and various structural obstacles designed to simulate real-world scenarios. Sarah had requested specific modifications to the course, additions that had puzzled the training staff until this moment. Now, as she began unpacking her equipment with practiced efficiency, the purpose of those modifications became clear. Standard breaching charges are designed for operators who approach on foot, Sarah explained, assembling what appeared to be a highly modified explosive device. But tactical situations don't always accommodate standard approaches. Her fingers moved with surgical precision, connecting detonators and measuring explosive compounds with the casual expertise of someone who had performed these tasks while under enemy fire. Several officers unconsciously took a step back as Sarah handled materials that could level a building if misused. The first demonstration target was a reinforced steel door, the kind commonly found in drug houses and fortified criminal compounds. Traditional breaching protocols required officers to approach directly, place charges, retreat to a safe distance, and detonate. Sarah's approach was entirely different. Using a specialized launcher mounted on her wheelchair, she fired a precisely calculated shaped charge from 30 feet away. The explosion was smaller than expected, almost surgical in its precision, but when the smoke cleared, the door hung twisted and useless while the surrounding structure remained intact. "Holy shit," whispered Officer Janet Walsh, a 10-year veteran who had seen her share of breaching operations. "How did you calculate the trajectory and explosive force from that distance?" The question carried genuine respect, the kind reserved for true professionals who had mastered their craft beyond conventional limitations. Sarah smiled, the first genuine expression of warmth she had shown all day. Physics doesn't change just because your approach angle does. In Afghanistan, we often had to breach structures while taking fire or from positions that weren't ideal. You adapt, you innovate, or you don't come home. She was already setting up for the second demonstration, this one involving a concrete wall that would typically require multiple charges and considerable time to breach effectively. The second explosion was even more impressive than the first. Sarah had used her wheelchair's stability as an advantage, creating a mobile firing platform that allowed for precision impossible with handheld equipment. The concrete wall developed a perfectly sized opening, large enough for tactical entry but small enough to maintain structural integrity. The surrounding area showed minimal collateral damage, a testament to her surgical approach to what most considered a brute force discipline. Officer Rodriguez found himself shaking his head in amazement. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology. That was some of the most precise breaching work I've ever witnessed." His admission carried weight. Rodriguez was known for his reluctance to praise anyone, let alone someone he had dismissed just hours earlier. But authentic skill commanded respect, and what Sarah had demonstrated went far beyond competence into the realm of artistry. The transformation in the group was palpable. Officers who had been exchanging skeptical glances were now clustering around Sarah, peppering her with technica, all questions about charge placement, timing sequences, and tactical applications. She answered each question with the patience of a born teacher and the authority of someone who had perfected these techniques in life-or-death situations where there was no room for error. Training Sergeant Morrison watched from the sidelines, a satisfied smile creasing his weathered face. He had suspected there was more to Lieutenant Chen than met the eye, but even he hadn't anticipated this level of expertise. "Chen, he called out as the demonstration concluded. "How would you feel about making this a regular thing? I think our people could learn a lot from your approach." Sarah's response surprised everyone, including herself. "I'd be honored, Sergeant, but I have one condition." The group fell silent, curious about what demands this remarkable woman might make. "Next time I want to see what you all can do. Real operators learn from each other, and I have a feeling this team has plenty to teach me as well." The afternoon concluded with Sarah leading an impromptu workshop on improvised explosive device recognition, sharing hard-won knowledge that could save lives in the field. Officers took notes with the dedication of students who recognized they were learning from a master. The woman they had mocked that morning had become their teacher, earning their respect not through sympathy or accommodation, but through undeniable competence and genuine expertise. As the training day ended and officers began packing their equipment, the conversation centered not on Sarah's wheelchair, but on her techniques. Plans were already forming for follow-up sessions, advanced training modules, and the integration of her innovative approaches into standard operating procedures. The mockery had been replaced by admiration. The skepticism transformed into genuine eagerness to learn from someone who had proven herself in the most demanding circumstances imaginable. Lieutenant Sarah Chen's story reminds us that true strength isn't measured by what we've lost, but by what we choose to do with what remains. Her journey from decorated combat veteran to innovative instructor illustrates a fundamental truth about the human spirit. Our greatest limitations often become our most powerful advantages when approached with creativity, determination, and unwavering commitment to excellence. The officers who mocked her wheelchair that morning learned an invaluable lesson about assumptions, respect, and the danger of underestimating someone based on appearances. But more importantly, they gained access to knowledge and techniques that would make them better at their jobs and safer in the field. Sarah didn't just prove herself that day. She elevated everyone around her through her expertise and willingness to share it. Her story continues to inspire not just in law enforcement circles, but wherever people face the challenge of redefining themselves after life-changing events. Sarah Chen proves that heroes aren't defined by their circumstances, but by their response to those circumstances. Her explosive breaching skills dominated that training course, but her character and resilience dominated something far more important: the hearts and minds of everyone who witnessed true professionalism in action. If stories like Sarah's inspire you, if you believe in honoring the service and sacrifice of our military heroes, please subscribe for more incredible tales of courage, innovation, and the unbreakable human spirit. These are the stories that need to be told, the heroes who deserve recognition, and the lessons that make us all better. Hit that subscribe button and join us in celebrating the extraordinary people who refuse to let obstacles define their limits.